Hi everybody. I would like to introduce to you this new instrument I just finished building 2 years ago. Yeah, it's a prototype that I built just for myself, for my own experimentation, and it's called the Murchana-tar, and I never got around to documenting it, so I figured I better do that because I've just finished building the next version of this instrument. So before this kind of disappears into the dust up in the attic somewhere, I better document it. So yeah. So it's a prototype. So it's just meant to test out an idea. It's got no varnish on it. It has the possibility for sympathetic strings, but there are none on there now. The name is a Murchana-tar, and I just sort of recently started thinking that actually a better, more descriptive term for this instrument could be a Murchana Wood Sarod, because that's more descriptive. It's like it's a Wood Sarod, but it has the possibility, the Murchana possibility. So the Murchana effect is possible. So what is the Murchana effect, you're wondering? Okay. Murchana is an Indian word, a Hindi word, which means, it describes the effect of when you have a scale or a mode, and the scale stays the same, but the tonic shifts. Okay? So that can provide a very interesting effect for the listener. For example, just to give you a basic example of that, is let's say you have a piano and you're going to play a C major scale. Okay, so that's all the white notes on the piano, from C, D, E, F, G, blah, blah, blah. All the white notes on the piano. You can just go there and noodle around, and you're playing. With your left hand, you hit a big fat C note, okay, and then you start noodling around on the white keys. What are you going to hear? It's going to sound like a major scale, right? Because you've got the C note is in the bass, giving the tonic, and then you play the notes on the white keys, and it sounds like a major scale, okay? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, sa, ni, ga, ba, ma, ga, re, sa, okay? It's the same. Then, now comes the Murchana effect. So you take your big fat C on the bass and change it to D. Okay? Change it to D and continue to play those white keys. Okay? So the actual notes you're playing are the C major scale, but the tonic shifted to D because you're playing a big D in the bass. What is that gonna sound like? See, like gives the effect a different effect. The sound suddenly sounds like a Dorian mode. Okay. Now that's just one example. Okay, one example where you take the scale and you shift the tonic. You shift the bass note, which shifts completely. You've shifted. Actually, Dorian mode is a minor scale, so for the listener suddenly, first was hearing a major scale, suddenly you shift the bass note and you're hearing a minor scale, right? So you have a totally different sound effect just by shifting, not even shifting the melody, you're just shifting the bass note, okay? So that's what a Murchana effect is. So if you have a raga, for example, one common, not really common, but one example of a Murchana in Indian music would be, for example, to play Bhairavi. You know, so Bhairavi, let's say your tonic is C, okay, Sa is C, and you play Bhairavi. Now shift your Sa, so you retune the drone strings to Komal Dha, which would be E, okay? Shift your, is that E actually? No, sorry, that's not E, that's would be A flat, right? Yeah, anyways. Komal Dha, you shift it to Komal Dha. So you start with C as your tonic, and as your Sa, and shift the tonic to Komal Dha, And the effect that you're going to hear is something like a Lydian mode, which is like a raga yaman kalyan tat, which is a totally different sound, right? So that's one way that you can use Murchana. So that's what Murchana is. So what I wanted with what I was finding in my concerts was that I wanted to get this effect, the Murchana effect, but to do that with my standard, like my rag makam tar, with my standard instrument, I would have to change the tuning at the tuning pegs, right? To change the drone strings. And the problem with that is that once you change the tuning, you're changing the tension of the neck. And once you change the tension of the neck, all the strings go out of tune. So if you've got 25 strings, you suddenly have to retune everything, right? Which is very time consuming and not what you want to do in the middle of a concert. So I tried to think of a way in which I could change the drone string, the tuning of the drone strings, without touching the tuning pegs, or at least very little, like just some other way, so I could change the tuning of the drone strings without altering the tension on the neck. So that way it could just be a quick change and continue playing. No retuning necessary, no disturbance in the middle of the concert. And a totally different soundscape, because I think a lot of listeners these days, the short attention spans, people don't really want to listen, to a 2-hour concert in the same tonic, the same drone. People get bored with that these days, so it's nice to be able to change at least the drone strings, change the vibe somehow a little bit. Gives people a break, with the listening, right? So here we go. So this is the Murchana-tar, and let me give you an example of how this effect can work. Basically, I've got the sympathetic strings, which are not on there now, and there are 4 plain strings. Okay, the 4 plain strings, which are just like a sarod. And then instead of having chikari, I've got 3 drone strings, 2 bass and 1 kind of middle drone string, and I made these kind of like little train tracks almost, there's a little track so you can slide, the string goes through this little caboose or whatever you want to call it, a little train, and you can move that up and down, and that changes the tuning of the string without having to change the tension. So that's the whole idea. So I'll play a little bit of Beravi, and I've got it now tuned to this sa pa sa, okay? And then I'll play one scale, one mode, and then I'll change the drone strings, and you'll hear the difference, how much of a difference you can get from that. So. So let's change. It's just like sa. That's very standard. Okay, now let's do a Murchana on that, and I'll change bass note down to. See? Slide that thing down. scale.